Zix-427 adjusted the frequency scanners aboard their small research vessel, hovering just beyond Earth's detection range. The familiar comfort of the ship's mathematical harmony surrounded them. The perfect, precise frequencies that powered everything in the harmonious Concordat's stabilization. Each sound was calculated to 11 decimal places, each vibration engineered to maintain the delicate balance of their technology. But something was wrong with the readings from Earth. Zix-427's crystalline appendages flickered with anxiety as they recalibrated the equipment for the 7th time. The anomalous patterns couldn't be interference. They were too structured, too intentional. Yet they defied every principle of harmonic physics the Concordat had established over 10,000 years of civilization. Computer, isolate frequency pattern, Earth 7249, and enhance, they commanded, their voice modulating in the perfect pitch that all Concordat citizens were engineered to maintain from birth. The ship's speakers crackled to life, and for the first time in their existence, Zix-427 heard what humans call jazz. The chaotic cascade of frequencies hit their sensory organs like a physical blow. Their crystalline form vibrated involuntarily, creating dissonant harmonics that hadn't existed in their species for millennia. The mathematical precision of their neural pathways struggled to process the seemingly random progression of notes. But beneath the chaos, there was something else. Zix-427 had already been stripped of their prestigious position at the Concordat's Academy of Harmonic Studies for suggesting that imperfect frequencies might have value. Their theories about ancient sound patterns had been dismissed as dangerous nonsense. Now, as their body resonated with this alien music, they realized they'd only scratched the surface of what was possible. Computer, access Earth information networks. Search term, music. The results were overwhelming. Symphony orchestras, rock bands, tribal drums, electronic dance music. The humans had developed thousands of different ways to deliberately create what the Concordat would consider acoustic chaos. But as Zix-427 absorbed more samples, their neural patterns began to shift subtly, allowing them to perceive something their species had engineered out of themselves eons ago: emotion. Warning signals flashed throughout the ship as Zix-427's physiological readings spiked dangerously. The computer, detecting the destabilization of their crystalline matrix, automatically initiated shutdown protocols for the audio feed. Override, Zix-427 commanded, their voice cracking with an imperfect frequency that would have horrified their colleagues. Continue playback, Earth sampling designated blues. The raw, soulful sound of a lone guitar filled the cabin. Zix-427's entire form began to resonate in ways that both terrified and fascinated them. Their neural pathways, designed for precise mathematical harmony, were being rewritten by these impossible sounds. With trembling appendages, they opened a secure channel to the Concordat Scientific Council. But as they prepared to report their findings, they hesitated. The Council would never understand what they were experiencing. They would quarantine Earth immediately, declaring human music a threat to the harmonic stability of their civilization. And perhaps it was, because for the first time in their carefully engineered life, Zix-427 felt something completely alien to their species. They felt alive. They closed the channel without sending their report. Instead, they began composing a request for deep cover assignment on Earth. Their credentials were damaged, but they were still one of the few xenomusicologists qualified for such a mission. If they could document these frequencies, study their effects, understand how such chaos could create such beauty. The thought stopped them cold. Beauty, an abstract concept their species had abandoned as inefficient. Yet here they were, experiencing it firsthand through these imperfect human harmonies. A new alert flashed on their console. Ships approaching from the Concordat's nearest outpost. Standard patrol, but they couldn't risk being discovered here. Not now. Not when they were on the verge of something revolutionary. As they prepared to slip away, Zix-427 downloaded one final sample from Earth's broadcasts. The humans called it rock and roll. They would study it once they were safely away, though their readings suggested it might be even more chaotic than jazz. Their ship vanished into the quantum harmonics of space, leaving no trace of their presence. But Zix-427's perfectly ordered world had already been shattered. They had discovered something that would either transform their civilization or tear it apart. The power of imperfection, captured in what humans simply called music. In the silence of their ship, they allowed themselves to do something unprecedented. They hummed a note, not a mathematically perfect frequency, but a raw, untamed sound inspired by what they'd heard. The crystal walls of their ship vibrated in response, creating patterns that had never existed before in Concordat space. The journey that would change both their civilization and humanity had begun with a single imperfect note. Preservation Hall's wooden floors creaked beneath Zix-427's carefully maintained human disguise. The holographic skin technology that masked their crystalline form was some of the Concordat's finest work, but it had never been tested under these conditions. The air inside the historic New Orleans Jazz Club was thick with humanity. Sweat, perfume, bourbon, and something else their sensors couldn't quite identify. Anticipation, perhaps. The human concept still felt foreign to them. Their cover identity as a visiting music student had gotten them inside, but nothing in their research had prepared them for the reality of a live jazz performance. The small stage held just 4 musicians, their instruments gleaming dully in the low light. Zix-427's enhanced hearing picked up the subtle sounds of preparation. The trumpet player's quiet breath, fingers testing piano keys, the soft brush of hands against drum skins. Then it began. The first note from the saxophone hit Zix-427 like a quantum shockwave. Their holographic disguise flickered imperceptibly as their crystalline form resonated with the sound. This wasn't like the recordings they'd studied. Live music carried frequencies they hadn't known existed, harmonics that seemed to bypass their scientific understanding and strike directly at something deeper. The trumpet joined in, and Zix-427 felt their carefully maintained neural pathways beginning to reorganize. The mathematical precision of their thought patterns dissolved into something organic, chaotic, beautiful. Their skin began to shimmer in rhythm with the music, threatening to break through the holographic overlay. First time hearing real jazz. An elderly man had appeared beside them, his dark eyes twinkling with knowing intensity. He held a battered trumpet case, marked with the name Marcus. Is it that obvious? Zix-427 modulated their voice carefully, fighting to maintain control of their human speech patterns. Marcus smiled. You've got that look, like you're seeing colors for the first time. He studied them more closely, and Zix-427 felt their anxiety spike. You know, I've been playing jazz for 50 years, and I still see folks light up like that. But you? He paused, his expression shifting. You're lighting up a little more literally than most. Zix-427 systems went into crisis mode. Their cover was blown. Protocol demanded immediate extraction, memory wipes, denial of contact. But the saxophone had just launched into an improvised solo, and their body refused to move. The frequencies were rewriting something fundamental in their structure. Don't worry, Starchild, Marcus said softly, keeping his voice below the music. You ain't the first of your kind to find their way here. Something about our music calls to folks from up there. He gestured vaguely at the ceiling. Been happening since before I was born. My granddaddy used to tell stories about strange folks showing up at Congo Square, their skin shimmering like diamonds when the drums really got going. The crystalline matrix that formed Zix-427's brain struggled to process this information. The Concordat had no record of previous contact with Earth music, unless those records had been deliberately erased. I should go, they managed, but their voice contained harmonics no human vocal cords could produce. Or, Marcus said, you could come to the real show, after hours, When we play the kind of jazz that calls to the stars. He pressed a small card into their hand. Midnight. Back door. No disguises needed. He winked and moved away, leaving Zix 427 vibrating with frequencies that would have horrified their supervisors. The card contained an address in the French Quarter and a symbol their databases couldn't identify. Every protocol they'd been programmed with screened for them to report this security breach immediately. But the music had awakened something that went deeper than programming. As the band launched into another song, Zix 427 made a decision that would alter the course of two civilizations. They would go to this midnight session. They would learn what Marcus knew about others of their kind. And most importantly, they would discover why the Concordat had kept this knowledge hidden for so long. Their holographic skin stabilized as they focused on maintaining their cover, but inside their crystalline form still hummed with new frequencies. They had come to study human music as a scientific observer. Instead, they were becoming something unprecedented, a bridge between mathematical perfection and raw emotion, between the stars and the smoky jazz clubs of Earth. The night was just beginning, and somewhere in the French Quarter, hidden instruments were being tuned to frequencies that could reshape the universe. The basement of Tokyo's oldest jazz club pulsed with frequencies that would have sent the Concordat sensors into overload. Zix 427 sat in a corner, their crystalline form now fully exposed, watching as beings from a dozen different star systems swayed to a fusion of Earth's musical traditions. A Centaurian's plasma-based body flickered in time with the thundering bass, while a cluster of Proximan collective consciousness orbs bobbed through the air, leaving trails of light that matched the melody. On stage, a human DJ worked alongside a Syrian sound manipulator, their 6 arms adjusting controls that mixed traditional Japanese shamisen with Earth's electronic music. 3 months had passed since Marcus had introduced them to this hidden world. The underground network of alien music enthusiasts stretched across Earth, gathering in secret locations to experience what many now called the most powerful force in the galaxy. Beautiful chaos, isn't it? A voice like wind through crystal chimes came from beside them. The speaker was clearly from the melodious streams of Antares, their flowing liquid crystal form barely contained within a humanoid shape. I'm second harmony of Dawn, but here they call me Dawn. Zix 427. They responded, noting how their own voice had changed since arriving on Earth. The mathematical precision was still there, but now it carried undertones of jazz rhythms. How long have you been coming to these gatherings? 20 Earth years. Dawn's form rippled with colors that corresponded to specific emotional frequencies. Another change that would have been impossible in their home system. My people, like yours, believe they've mastered sound, but they've only mastered control. Humans. She gestured at the DJ. They've mastered freedom. The music shifted, incorporating elements of classical Indian ragas. Several crystalline beings near the stage began to vibrate dangerously, their forms refracting light in new patterns. Zix 427 recognized the signs. Their neural pathways were being rewritten by the frequencies, just as their own had been. Suddenly, a piercing screech cut through the music. One of the newer arrivals, a Proximan orb, was vibrating at a frequency that threatened to shatter every crystalline being in the room. Its usual soft blue glow had turned a violent red. Neural cascade. Dawn's warning came too late. The Proximan exploded in a burst of light and sound, sending dangerous frequencies rippling through the crowd. 3 more orbs followed, their collective consciousness overwhelmed by the raw emotional power of the music. Zix 427 moved instinctively, extending their crystalline form to absorb and redirect the harmful frequencies. Dawn joined them, their combined efforts creating a barrier that protected the other aliens. But the damage was done. The explosion had been picked up by both human sensors and, more worryingly, the Concordat's monitoring systems. Everyone out. The human DJ was already activating emergency protocols, hidden doors opening to underground evacuation routes. Scatter Protocol Alpha. go dark for 72 hours. As the crowd rushed to escape, Zix-427 helped stabilize several younger crystalline beings whose forms had been damaged by the incident. Each one showed signs of permanent changes. Their once mathematically perfect structures now incorporated chaotic patterns inspired by human music. "They're not ready," Dawn said, her form dimming with concern. "We're bringing them too quickly into these experiences. Their systems can't handle the transformation." "But we can't stop," Zix-427 responded, understanding now why the network existed. Every being here has felt it. Human music isn't just sound, it's evolution. It's changing us into something new. Dawn's colors shifted to a deep worried purple. The Concordat will have detected this. They'll investigate everything we've built here. Then we'll need to understand it before they do. Zix-427's decision crystallized with the perfect clarity of a mathematical equation. There's a human neurologist in the network, Dr. Sarah Chen. She's been studying the changes in our neural patterns. If we can prove that this transformation is beneficial. Sirens wailed in the distance, human authorities responding to the energy spike. Soon, Concordat investigators would follow. The underground network had grown too large, too quickly. The secret was about to break wide open. As they helped Dawn escape through the tunnels beneath Tokyo, Zix-427 realized they were part of something far bigger than their original mission. This wasn't just about music anymore. It was about the next step in cosmic evolution. And humanity, with their beautiful, chaotic music, had somehow stumbled upon the key. Dr. Sarah Chen's laboratory hummed with an array of specialized equipment, both human and alien in origin. Zix-427 lay in a modified MRI machine while their crystalline form pulsed with Bach toccata and fugue in D minor. On nearby screens, their neural patterns danced in impossible configurations. "Extraordinary," Dr. Chen murmured, adjusting her holographic display. "Your neural pathways aren't just changing. They're remembering." She pointed to a complex pattern that spiraled through Zix-427's crystalline matrix. "These structures, they're not new formations. They're dormant patterns reactivating." Zix-427 absorbed this information while letting the music flow through them. After 3 months of working with Dr. Chen, they had learned to maintain consciousness during these deep scan sessions. Remembering what? "If I had to guess," Sarah smiled, her eyes bright with discovery. "What your species was before they engineered themselves for mathematical perfection. Look at this." She brought up a comparison scan. "This is you 3 months ago. Perfect crystalline symmetry, mathematical precision in every neural pathway. And this," she swiped to a current scan. "This is you now. The symmetry is still there, but it's organic, flowing. Like a river instead of a canal." The music shifted to a Beethoven symphony, and new patterns emerged in the scan. Sarah quickly captured the change. "There. Human music isn't just sound to your species, it's a biological programming language. It's rewriting your neural code to include parameters your ancestors deleted. Emotion, intuition, creativity. The Concordat teaches that we evolved past these primitive functions," Zix-427 said, but their voice contained harmonics of doubt. "Another new development." "No offense," Sarah said, switching the music to a jazz piece, "but that's cosmic scale nonsense. You didn't evolve past them. You engineered them out. Probably during your species' great push for mathematical perfection. But the capacity remained, dormant in your crystalline structure. Human music is just waking it up." A warning tone sounded from one of the alien devices. Sarah quickly checked the readings. "Your molecular stability is fluctuating again. We should stop." "No," Zix-427 insisted. "Keep the music playing. I need to understand what's happening to us." Sarah hesitated, then nodded. She had seen enough transformed aliens to know they couldn't stop the process once it began. She adjusted the scanning frequency and brought up a new diagnostic window. The changes are permanent, she explained, highlighting various patterns in the scan. Each exposure to human music awakens more of these dormant structures. But it's not just reactivating old patterns, it's creating new ones, hybrid structures that shouldn't be possible. Your species' mathematical precision, combined with human emotional resonance. Like a quantum computer learning to dream, Zix 427 mused, surprising themselves with the poetic analogy. Exactly. Sarah's excitement was palpable. But here's the real question. Why did your ancestors work so hard to suppress these capabilities? What were they afraid of? Before Zix 427 could respond, their communicator chimed with an urgent message from Dawn. The signal was distorted, emotional harmonics bleeding through the usually precise Antarian communication protocols. The Concordat. They know. They've declared human music a Level 1 mimetic hazard. They're saying it's a weapon, a threat to our species' purity. Quarantine protocols are being prepared. Zix, they're going to isolate Earth. Sarah's face paled as she looked at the latest scan results. It's not just your neural patterns that are changing. These new configurations, they're affecting local space-time. The emotional resonance is creating quantum fluctuations that shouldn't be possible. Zix 427 rose from the scanner, their crystalline form now permanently altered with swirling patterns that matched the music's rhythm. The Concordat fears what it doesn't understand. They engineered us for stability, predictability. Human music. They paused, searching for the right words. It's teaching us to embrace chaos, to find new patterns in the randomness. Not randomness, Sarah corrected, pulling up one final scan. Look at this pattern here. It's not chaos. It's a higher form of order, one that includes both mathematical precision and emotional resonance. Your people didn't evolve past emotion. They just never figured out how to integrate it with their mathematical understanding. The implications were staggering. Human music wasn't a threat to their species. It was the key to their next evolutionary leap. But with the Concordat preparing quarantine protocols, they had precious little time to prove it. As if sensing their thoughts, Sarah started typing rapidly on her computer. We need to show them. Not tell them. Show them. The changes in your neural structure, the quantum fluctuations, the dormant patterns, we need to make them experience it for themselves. Zix 427's form pulsed with new frequencies as an idea took shape. Not just experience it. We need to remind them of what they've forgotten. What we all forgot in our rush to achieve perfection. The lab's speakers continued to play, backs flowing seamlessly into Miles Davis, while two beings from vastly different worlds worked to solve a puzzle billions of years in the making. In their combined knowledge, human intuition and alien mathematics lay the key to saving both their species. The desert vibrated with bass frequencies that shook the earth itself. Hundreds of thousands of humans packed the festival grounds, their bodies moving in rhythm to the electronic beats that pulsed through massive speaker arrays. Unknown to most of them, dozens of aliens moved among the crowd, their holographic disguises growing increasingly unstable as the music's emotional resonance peaked. Zix 427 monitored the situation from a makeshift control center behind the main stage, their crystalline form now permanently altered with swirling patterns that matched the music's flow. Dr. Chen's equipment showed alarming spikes in quantum fluctuation readings. The collective emotional output is higher than anything we've measured, Sarah said, adjusting her instruments. The aliens in the crowd, their neural patterns are synchronizing with the human frequencies. Dawn materialized beside them, her liquid crystal form rippling with concern. We should never have attempted this. The energy levels are too high. If even one of us loses control. A new track began, its sweeping orchestral introduction building into a thunderous electronic crescendo. The crowd roared, their combined emotional energy creating harmonic patterns that lit up Sarah's quantum sensors like a supernova. Something's happening, Zix 427 said, watching as the readings spiked beyond their scales. The human emotions, They're amplifying the music's effect on our neural patterns. The first holographic disguise failed near the center of the crowd. Assyrian's true form burst through the camouflage, their crystalline structure refracting the festival lights in impossible patterns. Instead of panic, the nearby humans cheered, assuming it was part of the show. Then another disguise failed, and another. Neural cascade. Dawn's warning came as her own form began to pulse with intense light. The collective resonance, it's overwhelming our control systems. Across the festival grounds, dozens of aliens revealed their true forms as their holographic disguises shattered. Crystalline beings, plasma entities, and energy constructs stood exposed among the human crowd. For a moment, everything hung in perfect balance. Then someone started live streaming. Multiple uploads detected, Sarah reported, her fingers flying over her keyboard. It's going viral. #Alien Surreal is trending. The Concordet's Earth monitoring systems will detect this any second. The music reached another peak, and the quantum fluctuations intensified. Zix 427 watched in horror and fascination as their fellow aliens began to change. Their forms weren't just revealing themselves, they were transforming. The music's emotional resonance was triggering evolutionary changes that should have taken millennia. A Centaurian's plasma body developed new patterns that matched the rhythm. Proximan orbs split and reformed in time with the beat. Even Dawn's liquid crystal structure was developing new configurations that shouldn't have been possible. The changes. Sarah's voice was filled with wonder as she studied the readings. They're not random. The music is acting as a catalyst, accelerating adaptations that were always possible but suppressed. Look at these neural patterns. They're identical to the dormant structures we found in your scans. But Zix 427 barely heard her. Their attention was drawn to the sky, where Concordat ships had begun to appear. The quarantine was beginning. They'll isolate Earth, Dawn said, her voice containing new harmonics of fear and determination. They'll cut us off from our homes, our families. No, Zix 427's voice carried new frequencies of authority. They need to understand what's really happening here. This isn't contamination. It's completion. We're becoming what we were always meant to be. The festival's music continued to pound through the night air as more ships appeared in the sky. On social media, #FirstContact competed with #AlienRave for trending dominance. The secret that had been kept for centuries was exploding into the open in the most human way possible. Through a musical celebration, Sarah's instruments began picking up new readings as the Concordat ships moved into position. The quantum fluctuations, they're affecting local space-time. The music isn't just changing your biology. It's altering the fundamental forces around us. Zix 427 felt it too. Each beat of the music sent ripples through reality itself. Their crystalline form resonated with frequencies that existed somewhere between mathematics and emotion, science and art. They had come to study human music as an observer, but they had become part of something far more profound. The evolution of consciousness itself. As emergency protocols activated around the world and the Concordat prepared to isolate Earth, Zix 427 made a decision. They opened a secure channel to the High Council, their voice carrying both the perfect mathematics of their origin and the emotional harmonics of their transformation. Honored Council, they transmitted, before you act, there's something you need to hear. The night sky filled with ships, the festival crowd danced on, and the music that had shattered every expectation of two civilizations continued to play, writing new patterns into the fabric of the universe itself. The containment field around Earth shimmered like a soap bubble, its quantum harmonics precisely tuned to prevent any music from escaping into space. In Dr. Chen's lab, now crowded with both human and alien scientists, Zix 427 studied the latest readings with growing excitement. Play it again. They instructed Sarah, their crystalline form vibrating with anticipation. But this time, monitor the quantum field variations. Sarah nodded and started the recording, a simple acoustic guitar piece played by a street musician in Barcelona. As the music filled the lab, the instruments began registering impossible readings. "There," Dawn exclaimed, her liquid crystal form rippling with the discovery. "The space-time distortions, they're not random. They're forming patterns." The holographic display showed waves of quantum fluctuation spreading from the music's source, creating intricate geometric patterns in the fabric of reality itself. But these weren't the perfect mathematical forms the Concordat would have expected. They were organic, flowing, alive with possibility. "Humans aren't just making music," Zix 427 said, their voice containing harmonics of wonder. "They're unconsciously manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe. Every song, every melody. They're rewriting the quantum framework of reality itself." Sarah pulled up comparative scans showing the effect of different musical styles. Classical music creates stable geometric patterns, like crystal growth. Jazz causes quantum probability clouds to dance in new configurations. Electronic music generates ripples in the space-time continuum itself. "But how?" a Syrian physicist asked, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns of confusion. "The Concordat spent millennia developing our frequency manipulation technology. Humans have no such understanding." "That's exactly the point," Zix 427 replied, experiencing what humans called an epiphany. "We approached it mathematically, trying to force the universe into perfect patterns. Humans, they gestured to the readings. They feel it. Their music comes from emotion, intuition, creativity, qualities our species engineered away. They're not trying to control the universe, they're dancing with it." Dawn moved closer to the display, her form shifting colors with understanding. "The high concentration of creative energy around Earth, the way so many species have been drawn here throughout history. It's been humanity all along," Sarah finished. "Your civilizations advanced technologically, but you lost something essential along the way. Humans never developed the technology to manipulate universal frequencies because they never needed to. They were doing it naturally through their art. The implications were staggering. The Concordat ships maintained their quarantine positions around Earth, their perfect mathematical harmonics intended to contain what they saw as a threat. But they had it backwards. Human music wasn't a danger to their civilization. It was the key to their next evolutionary step." Zix 427 accessed the lab's database, pulling up historical records of human musical development. "Look at this pattern. Every major advancement in human music correlates with a spike in quantum fluctuations. When jazz emerged, when electronic music was born, even the first human rhythms beaten on hollow logs. They've been unconsciously experimenting with universal frequencies since the beginning," Dawn realized. "Each new form of music explores different aspects of reality itself." Sarah's instruments suddenly registered a new phenomenon. The containment field surrounding Earth was beginning to resonate with harmonics it wasn't designed to handle. The quarantine, it's not just containing the music. It's amplifying it, creating a feedback loop. The lab's sensors showed the effect spreading through the quantum fabric of spacetime. Human music, trapped within the containment field, was generating new patterns of possibility. New configurations of reality that even the Concordat's advanced mathematics couldn't predict. "We need to show them," Zix 427 decided, their form pulsing with new purpose. "Not just the High Council. Every spacefaring civilization needs to understand what's happening here. Humans haven't developed frequency manipulation technology because they are the technology. Their creativity, their emotional connection to music, it's the most sophisticated universal manipulation system ever developed." Dawn's colors shifted to show concern. "The Concordat will never accept this. Their entire civilization is built on the principle of mathematical perfection. Then we'll make them feel it," Zix 427 said, already formulating a plan. "We'll organize a performance that combines everything we've learned. Human music, alien harmonics, quantum physics, and pure emotion. something so powerful it will remind every species in the galaxy of what they've forgotten. As if in response to their words, the containment field flickered with new patterns, human music continuing to rewrite the rules of reality, even as the Concordat tried to contain it. In Dr. Chen's lab, beings from across the cosmos watched in awe as humanity's greatest gift revealed itself, not the perfect mathematics of advanced civilization, but the beautiful chaos of creative evolution itself. The Sydney Opera House stood transformed, its iconic shells now housing a combination of human instruments and alien technology that had never existed before. The containment field surrounding Earth rippled with anticipation, its quantum harmonics affected by the mere preparation for what was to come. Zix-427 moved through the backstage area, their crystalline form now permanently altered with patterns that flowed like visual music. Around them, the most extraordinary orchestra ever assembled waited to perform. Human musicians with their traditional instruments, Syrian sound shapers with their quantum resonators, Proximan consciousness orbs hovering above their designated positions, and Dawn's liquid crystal form flowing through a specially designed amplification chamber. A High Council has agreed to watch, Sarah reported, checking the quantum transmission equipment. Along with representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations, whatever happens tonight will be witnessed across the galaxy. If it works, Dawn added, her form shifting through nervous chromatic scales. It will work, Zix-427 said with a certainty that surprised them. Because we're not trying to prove anything. We're trying to remind them. The house lights dimmed, and a hush fell over the audience. A mix of humans who had been cleared for the event and disguised aliens who had refused to leave Earth despite the quarantine. Dr. Chen's instruments tracked quantum fluctuations as they built to unprecedented levels. The performance began with a single note, a perfect mathematical frequency played by a Concordat quantum harmonizer. It filled the space with crystalline purity, representing everything their civilization had achieved. Then, slowly, a human violinist began to play. The two sounds met, mathematical precision intertwining with emotional resonance. The containment field surrounding Earth flickered as new patterns formed in the quantum fabric of space-time. Zix-427 felt their crystalline structure respond, remembering ancient forms their species had forgotten. Layer by layer, the symphony built. Human drums provided rhythms that matched the pulse of stellar cores. Syrian sound shapers created harmonics that danced between dimensions. The Proximan consciousness orbs added frequencies that existed only in dreams. Throughout it all, Dawn's liquid crystal form transformed the music into visible patterns of light and energy. In orbit, the Concordat ships registered impossible readings as reality itself began to shift and flow with the music. The High Council watched in astonishment as their perfect mathematical models failed to explain what they were witnessing. The music reached deeper, past the artificial constraints of evolved civilizations, touching something primordial and essential. Quantum sensors across the galaxy recorded patterns that shouldn't have been possible. The marriage of mathematical precision and emotional chaos creating something entirely new. Then came the moment they had planned for. Zix-427 stepped forward, their crystalline form becoming a living instrument. Through them flowed both the perfect harmonics of their origin and the wild creativity they had learned from humanity. The sound they produced existed somewhere between mathematics and dreams. The effect was immediate and unprecedented. Across the galaxy, crystalline beings felt ancient patterns awakening in their structures. Quantum probability clouds danced in new configurations. The very fabric of space-time responded to frequencies it had forgotten it could play. Sarah's instruments were registering quantum fluctuations beyond their capacity to measure. The containment field, it's not just transmitting the music, it's becoming part of it. The quarantine barrier that had been meant to isolate Earth was transforming, its perfect mathematical frequencies learning to dance with the emotional resonance of human music. The result was a cascade of new possibilities rippling through space-time. In the opera house, human and alien musicians played on, their combined music telling the story of evolution itself, not as a march toward perfect order, but as a dance between mathematics and emotion, science and art, precision and possibility. The High Council watched as their own crystalline forms began to respond, ancient patterns reawakening despite centuries of careful engineering. They were remembering what their species had been before they chose perfect mathematics over creative chaos. As the symphony reached its crescendo, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. The quantum fabric of the universe vibrated with frequencies that had not been heard since the first stars learned to shine. In that moment, every being watching understood what humanity had known all along, that the most profound truths of existence couldn't be calculated, they had to be felt. The performance ended not with perfect resolution, but with a question mark of possibility hanging in the air. In its wake, nothing in the galaxy would ever be quite the same. As the last notes faded, Zix 427 felt their crystalline form humming with new patterns of potential. They had come to study human music as a scientist. Instead, they had helped orchestrate the next movement in the universe's own eternal symphony. The High Council's chamber, once a monument to mathematical perfection, now bore subtle signs of change. Crystalline walls that had once reflected light in precisely calculated patterns now showed traces of organic flow. The council members themselves had been transformed, their forms incorporating swirling designs that would have been considered flaws mere months ago. Zix 427 stood before them, their own form a living testament to the power of human music. The classification decision they were about to announce would reshape the relationship between Earth and the galaxy forever. After extensive analysis, the first speaker began, their voice containing new harmonics of emotion that no one commented on. We have reached an unanimous conclusion. Earth's musical traditions represent not a threat, but an evolutionary catalyst of unprecedented significance. The quantum feeds carried the proclamation across space, where representatives from dozens of civilizations waited to hear humanity's fate. In Dr. Chen's lab, Sarah and Dawn watched alongside a group of human musicians who had helped change the course of cosmic history. The phenomenon known as human music is hereby classified as a Tier 1 universal heritage resource. The speaker continued. Earth is to be designated as the cradle of universal song, a protected wellspring of creative evolution. The declaration sent ripples through the quantum fabric of reality itself. The containment field that had been meant to isolate Earth transformed into a protective barrier, preserving the unique conditions that had allowed humanity's musical gift to develop. Furthermore, a second speaker added, their crystalline form refracting light, in patterns that matched their words. We recognize that this discovery necessitates a fundamental reevaluation of our own development. The engineering of our species for mathematical perfection, while achieving remarkable technological advancement, also suppressed essential aspects of our potential. Zix 427 felt their form resonating with the truth of these words. They had been transformed not just by human music, but by the recognition of what their own species had sacrificed in their pursuit of perfection. Therefore, the first speaker resumed. We established the Galactic Institute of Musical Evolution, to be headquartered on Earth. Its purpose will be to study and safely integrate human musical traditions with the technological achievements of spacefaring civilizations. In Dr. Chen's lab, Sarah's instruments registered quantum fluctuations that matched the patterns of pure joy. The musicians who had participated in the Sydney performance shared knowing looks. They had already witnessed what this combination could achieve. Zix 427. The speaker addressed them directly. Given your unique experience and transformation, you will head this initiative. Your task will be to bridge the mathematical precision of advanced civilization with the emotional resonance of human creativity. Dawn's liquid crystal form flowed with patterns of celebration as she received her own appointment as liaison between Earth and the Antarian systems. Across the galaxy, other transformed beings were being chosen for similar roles, their newfound ability to exist between precision and chaos making them perfect ambassadors for this new age. But most importantly, The first speaker concluded, "We recognize that this classification serves not to restrict human music, but to protect its development. Humanity's gift is not merely their music, but their understanding that the universe itself is a song, one that requires both mathematics and emotion to be heard properly." The declaration ended, but its effects were just beginning. Already, the quantum fabric of reality was shifting to accommodate new possibilities. Civilizations that